Despite being abstract, mass combat in GURPS is quite an involved process. Even when you have your elements listed, you have a lot to do before you actually fight the battle. In this video, I will try to explain everything you can or have to do before the fight. First of all, you should write down your army roster that lists all the elements and has pre-calculated values of the total troop strength and troop strength of element classes. You can see an example on the screen that I took from the book. It is possible to play without an army roster, but this is just convenient and will save you a lot of time and effort. You should also keep in mind that not all elements can participate in all battles. Obviously, land troops cannot fight in naval combat, ships cannot fight in combats that are fought in space, and so on. Then you have to fill the 3 leadership positions: the commander, who should have good strategy and leadership skills, the intelligence chief, who should have a good intelligence analysis skill, and the quartermaster, who organizes supply with his administration skill. These positions can be taken by player characters or non-player characters. It's all up to you. What if your army is fighting a single large monster or a small disorganized group of monsters? The book suggests assigning a cunning value to such enemies that is equal to the monster's IQ or perception. They are unlikely to have military skills after all. To fight a battle, you first have to move your army. GURPS mass combat has rules for overland movement, and they are similar to the rules in other books, but simplified to be compatible with the mobility classes of combat elements. Even if the army is not moving, it can have different modes of operation: patrolling, bunkered, or just encamped with no security. This affects intelligence gathering and ambush roles. Speaking of ambushes, not every combat is a pitched battle, where both sides know exactly where the enemies are and what their army composition is. If armies have moved into each other's general vicinity, but are still uncertain of their foe's exact location, a Reconnaissance Contest is required. This is a quick contest in which each force rolls against the average of its intelligence chief's intelligence analysis skill and its commander's strategy skill, rounded down. However, there are many modifiers that can be applied to this roll. Depending on whether your force is on the move or is encamped, different sets of modifiers apply. Your roll is penalized if you have no security, if all your elements are flying, if your army is on a forced march, if you do not have any recon elements, or if the locals are hostile. You can get a bonus if your army is faster than the enemy, if the locals are friendly, or if all your enemies have the recon class or are adapted to the current terrain type. This is also where special class superiority modifiers come into play, at least some of them: recon superiority and air superiority. I will explain how to calculate them a bit later in this video. So now you have all the modifiers and you finally roll the Reconnaissance Contest. Then the result depends on 2 factors: your margin of victory and the terrain rating of the terrain type you're currently in. Some terrain types are easier to set up an ambush in, some are not. GURPS Mass Combat has a terrain rating table on page 29. The rating ranges from 3 to 8, and is further modified by the weather and the time of the day. This might be confusing, but this is how it works. There are 3 degrees of success: winning the initiative, achieving surprise, and achieving an ambush. If your margin of victory is lower than the terrain rating, then you simply win the initiative. You have a rough estimate of the enemy's army composition and can choose to deploy your forces either in a prepared pitched battle or a hasty encounter battle. Pitched battle and encounter battle are 2 different battle types that work with some differences. I will describe these differences in the next video. Alternatively, you may simply avoid the battle altogether. If your margin of victory is equal or higher than the terrain rating, but higher by not more than 5, you achieve surprise. You get all the benefits of winning the initiative, with the difference that if you choose an encounter battle, the opposing force will be confused on its first round of battle. If your margin of victory is higher than the terrain rating by 5 or more, then you achieve an ambush. Now, even if you choose to fight a pitched battle, the enemy is confused on its first round. I will explain what confusion means in the next video, where I'm going to talk about the actual battle. There are also special situations for when reconnaissance contests result in a tie. You have to roll 1d. On a roll less than or equal to the terrain rating, you fight a pitched battle. Anything else means an encounter battle. If both sides fail critically, then they fight an encounter battle and both forces are confused at the start of the battle. If your leadership positions are not taken up by your player characters, this is the perfect place to just drop these rules and play out the reconnaissance as a mission for the player characters. And if they succeed, you can just estimate the effective margin of victory. This is one of the good ways to use the player characters in the mass combat system. With reconnaissance done, the only thing that is left to determine before you can act out the battle is the basic strategy modifier. This modifier is applied to your commander's strategy roll, and usually stays the same between battle rounds. The basic strategy modifier is composed of 3 parts. The first part is a relative troop strength bonus. After adding up each force's total troop strength, divide the larger TS by the smaller one to get an odds factor. Look this up on the relative TS table on page 31 of GURPS Mass Combat to find the associated strategy skill bonus. The weaker side has no corresponding penalty. Keep in mind that support elements are counted as having only 10% of their TS here, or 0% if their only class is C3I. The second part is special class superiority. It is calculated in the same way. Take higher total TS of a particular element class and divide it by the smaller one to get an odds factor. The table, however, is different. Each class superiority can give you a bonus that ranges from +1 to +3. Keep in mind that if, for example, your enemy has no elements of this class, but you do have them, this is an automatic +3 bonus. Also, this is where the support TS comes into play in full, but it cannot give you a net bonus, it simply neutralizes the advantage. All class superiority bonuses are cumulative, but not all classes count in all situations. You have to read the book to see the special cases. The third part is a casualty modifier. If a force took casualties, each 5% loss sustained gives -1 to the basic strategy modifier. While the first 2 parts of the bonus usually are static throughout the battle, this one is dynamic. Also, your strategy roll can be modified by certain circumstantial modifiers that depend on the commander's action and by the defense bonus of the terrain type you are in currently if you are in an encamped position. So, as you can see, the battle preparations are quite complex. I hope this was helpful because the book can be difficult to understand sometimes. In the next video I will talk about the actual battle mechanics. Thank you for watching and I'll see you later.